Hi, my name is Marco Roque. I'm the president and CEO of Cassiar Gold. Cassiar Gold is a Canadian gold explorer. Our flagship asset is located in northern British Columbia. We have a foundational resource there of 1.4 million ounces at 1.14 grams per ton, right at surface and open laterally in all directions and at depth. And we also have the benefit of infrastructure, mine permits, a fully owned and permitted mill, and access to power, an excellent team of very experienced executives in the resource space. And our ticker is GLDC on the Toronto Stock Exchange and CGLCF on the OTCQB in the United States.
Marco, thank you very much for the introduction. Good to be speaking to you. It's been an extremely long time since you've been on Crux, Crux Investor. I think perhaps could you, we'll get into kind of a look back at the last year and a look forward to this year, but could you just give me a quick synopsis of where the project is at? You've said you've got a resource. What are your plans for the project? Are you still in the exploration mode? Are you in the study phase? Are the shovels about to start digging? A quick update on that, please.
Absolutely. So I actually took over as CEO in 2020. At the time, we had a 1 million ounce resource, and our first drill program as a company was a 5,000 meter drill program. And fast forward in 2022, we had in 2022 our largest drill campaign to date. We drilled 23,000 meters, over 23,000 meters, most of which are still to be released, and I'll go into that in a little second. In terms of the stage of the project, we're clearly an exploration company. Although we are a brownfield project with a lot of past production and a lot of infrastructure that comes along with, and all the benefits that come along of being a past producer, we're clearly an explorer, and I think we're just in the early innings of really trying to measure what is the size of this district, because we control the entire district, the Cassiar Gold District, which we are focused on. I think we're really just starting to scratch the surface, although a lot of people get sometimes confused because we have mine permits, we have the fully owned and permitted mill, we have all that infrastructure, and people always ask about production and when can you start production. There's a lot of answers for that, but I guess we'll get into some of those details a little bit later.
So the short answer is there was a historic mine, there are mills, you've got mine permits, but actually you're an exploration company, and so you're still trying to put an envelope around the known mineralization before you start working on what's inside that envelope. You're still trying to work out the size of the prize.
Exactly, and there are several areas that we're working on. We have all of our resource is in this bulk-tonnage deposit, the Taurus deposit, which sits on a 1 kilometer by 1 kilometer area, and we're trying to add ounces within that pit shell as well as outside, given it's all open. But we also have these underground veins, and we are looking to other regional targets that could be centers of kind of similar style deposits to Taurus. They can might even link up. So we're it's early stage, and the reason for that is that the whole district was broken up until the late 2000s. So a little bit of history. This entire district was only amalgamated in the late 2000s, and only now it has the benefit of a full district scale modern technique approach to exploration, because most of the historical production was in the 80s and 90s. So a long time has passed, and obviously a lot of things have changed, including the gold price as well.
And when you talk about that historical production, I noticed that some of your infrastructure is linked to an asbestos mine. But was the historical production that the mill was for? Was that a gold mine, and what kind of target was it targeting?
Yeah, so on the asbestos mine, that's part of the main reason why the kind of the gold rush, kind of the development happened here. The gold rush started here in the late 1800s when the prospector found a 72-ounce gold nugget. So kudos to him, and obviously that started a gold rush into the space. But in the 60s, one of the biggest asbestos mine in Canada was actually not just outside of our project, but was a relatively sizable. It was the biggest asbestos mine in Canada. Obviously, these days they want to keep the asbestos in the ground, but that sits clearly outside of our project, thankfully. Although one of the things we are thinking about is using in a future production scenario, using the tailings to cover up, because there's still some piles of asbestos, or they sit outside of our property that are in government land. But obviously, we would love to help and turn in that like environmental liability that is not ours. But if we could help in reducing the impact of that liability for the community and for the region, we will be obviously delighted with that. Now, into your question on the past production, there were actually several mines in our project. Our project has 17 portals, historical portals. There were 425,000 ounces produced. 315,000 ounces of those were from underground veins at the average grade of roughly 16 grams per ton. There was also, so that's the high grade material that we have underground. There was also small production coming from the Taurus area where we have our bulk-tonnage deposits. There were 35,000 ounces produced there at 3.8 grams per ton with an average recovery of roughly 80%. On the high grade veins, the average recovery was 93%. Mostly, both of the areas produced with a gravity flotation mill. We still have one of those mills that produced most of the material from the Cassiar South high grade veins. The other mill that produced the Taurus material, the 35,000 ounces, has been since reclaimed. So there's a lot of history, a lot of production from different portions, and again there were a lot of there were several explorers, several producers, some of them centrally milling, as well as the producers from I just had a blank. The ones producing from the riverbeds.
The alluvials, the placer guys.
Exactly, the placer miners, which we still have in the project today. A few placer. Obviously, there's a lot of smoke coming from upstream. That's why you have the placer there, the placer guys there, and it's really a very long history of production, exploration, and exploration as well. So it's a lot of history here.
How big are your license areas? I mean, and are you talking tens of kilometers or hundreds of kilometers?
Yeah, so we have truly a really large land package. So our land package is roughly 25 kilometers by 27 kilometers. It's 59,000 hectares of opportunity. Our Taurus resource, the 1.4 million ounce resource, sits on a 1 kilometer by 1 kilometer, with 90% of the ounces being within 150 meters from surface. We're very, very shallow. So it's a large land package, but it's very underexplored. We obviously also have the Cassiar South vein systems a little bit further to the south, but we have dozens of min-file occurrences with outcropping veins across our property. We have a wealth of opportunity to explore, but our budgets are only so big, so we need to take it. Choose the more attractive ones and take it one step at a time.
Have you been able to do kind of a area ranking? I mean, how do you know that Taurus is the best area, or Cassiar North, and within which Taurus sits? Is that just because of where you started, or were you able to collate the data? Maybe it was the place that you could get to. Maybe that is closest to the area, the landing strip.
Yeah. So actually, the landing strip doesn't have much influence on the logistics because we have a highway bisecting our property, so everything is road accessible, which keeps our costs low. We have a permanent camp on site as well. So in terms of why do we start, or why we focus on Taurus, it's very much an historical reason. We go from the inside out, meaning from the known to the unknown. And Taurus is wide open in all directions. Actually, even within the pit shell, and we put out a press release actually earlier today on this. There's a potential to expand mineralization within the pit shell, that it was within the pit shell, but outside of the resource block model. So we're taking an approach going from the known to the unknown, and obviously Taurus is lower risk because it's bulk-tonnage, disseminated. And when we drill internally, the surprise on Taurus will be not to hit. We're now looking to the Cassiar South, the high grade veins. In 2020, when we drilled there for the first time, and that's why we had some really spectacular hits. We had 4.8 meters at 35 grams per ton. which is really spectacular and amazing to hit. But obviously, at the same time, you know that you're not going to have these kind of hits every time, because these veins are on average 2 to 3 meter thick. So when you're drilling 200, 300, 400 meters into the earth, you're not going to necessarily hit the structures every time and get these kinds of hits every time. So it's a higher risk, but obviously higher reward as well. So we're kind of going from the known to the unknown. Also with Cassiar South, because in Cassiar South there's veins that are well understood. They have been mined and they have been drilled, and we're looking for the extensions of these known veins. But when you drill at Cassiar South on these high-grade underground veins, we try to be smart and take with one single drill hole, we try to hit an extension of the vein, and at the same time looking for a potential blind discovery of a parallel or a stacked vein system, which we know there's a few, because with the production and the drilling that we have from the past, that suggests there's a lot of potential for a lot more. So that's the way we focus our drilling.
Thank you. It's really helpful hearing you describe that. What's your budget for the kind of the foreseeable? I mean, you talk about the known to the unknown, so presumably you're spending more on the known, and you're doing kind of gradual de-risking and gradual growing of that envelope, and less as you get further out. The higher risk, the lower your stake that you're going to put on that. The smaller your chip on the table, so to speak. Both in terms of kind of percentage terms, but also in absolute terms, if you will.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Absolutely. So for this year, we're looking at a potential budget of roughly $15 million for the entire year. And we're looking to do a similar size program, if not bigger than last year. So last year, we drilled 23,000 meters. We obviously want to keep the momentum and potentially add more. We still have a lot of news flow to put out. So actually, we want to get that news flow out, see the stock reaction, which hopefully is heading north. We're feeling pretty good about the news flow that's coming, and depending on where the price is and how much dilution we're facing, have a raise that is commensurate with the program and the objectives that we want to achieve. So in terms of the split, last year our split was roughly half of the drilling towards the Taurus deposits. We actually originally budgeted 20,000 meters. We ended up drilling 23,000 meters in total last year, but half of it towards Taurus. And of that half of Taurus, 80% towards step outs and 20% towards infill. And infill being, because we did a resource update without doing an infill program last year, there's a lot of areas within the pit shell that return as zero grade, although we suspect that they're mineralized. So because they're more than 50 meters away from any drilling, so it just automatically returns zero grade. So actually we've been going there and infilling those gaps where we feel there's a good chance we can add ounces. Apologies, maybe I shouldn't say add ounces, but basically we can intercept mineralization, expand mineralization, and that can contribute to resource growth in the future. I'm just being mindful with my language here, otherwise my QP is going to strangle.
Yeah, the QP, the stock exchange, everybody's going to come down on you. But I know what you mean. You've got to do the exploration and all of the QA QC and all of that good work. And if the drill intercepts are tighter spaced and you've got the grades and the tons, then you the end result is your resource would grow by a number of ounces. But
exactly.
Let's not forget all of that crucial work in between. So you said that was the split last year, was 80% on step out and 20% on infill. Exactly. So this year,
that's of the 50% that's going towards stores. So that's on the bulk tonnage where we have the foundational resource. Then what we're looking to do is what we actually did. We allocated 25% into the Cassiar South high-grade veins, looking to extend those veins as well as looking to add extensions. So looking for extensions of those veins as well as the potential for parallel and stacked blind vein discoveries, which periodicity suggests that every 400 to 600 meters, there's a potential for a periodicity there, parallel vein clusters. And we have a 15-kilometer trend, so there's a lot of room there. And we also know there's at least 3 levels at Cassiar South of mineralization. On the top of the plateau, 100 meters below and 300 meters below and 500 meters below, there's vein mineralization that we know from the past production. So we have extensions on the X axis, parallel system, potential parallel vein systems on the Y-axis, and on a vertical axis, that's stacking potential that we've determined that's in our system. There's already 3 levels. Hopefully there's more, but so there's a lot of room there to add more vein systems and find more vein systems and extend the known ones. And then the other 25% into some regional scale, regional targets, because we have some TORs lookalike. We have like Wing Scanning is a good example. Wing Scanning, we have some historical intercepts of 128.5 meters at 0.56 grams per ton. That's 700 meters, 600 meters to the southeast of Taurus. We have Lucky with some grab samples with 150, 300 grams per ton, which is very anomalous gold. Where we have some subcropping veins, and that's 3 kilometers to the northwest of Taurus. And we also have Snow Creek, where we have these outcropping quartz veins, which are just 3 kilometers to the northeast of Taurus. It's actually a long strike, and there's a potential there that actually Snow Creek is connected to Taurus, in which case, with that kind of distance and what the ounces that we have already at Taurus, the size of the system could be truly spectacular if it's one system, but I would be happy if it's kind of a satellite deposit. But we need to get the turf machine out there, the drill rigs, and drill it and take it one step at a time and really do the geoscience correctly.
Sorry, I wasn't quite clear. The splits that you've been talking about, let's 50% on Taurus, 25 on Cassiar South, and 25 on regional. Was that what you did last year, or what you're planning to do this year?
That's approximately what we did last year, and as of now, tentatively, that's our plan for this year as well.
Okay.
Obviously, we've only released so far 6,000 meters, including the results that we released today from the 2022 drill program. So there's still 17,000 meters of drilling, roughly 50 drill holes to be released over the next few weeks and months. And obviously, that might change our split idea. Obviously, we have to look at the results, seeing where we're feeling more comfortable, more confidence, and maybe that we can readjust the splits. But tentatively, this is our split, given what we know today.
Are you processing your core kind of in order, or have you kind of had some holes you thought, we've got to get these ones in first? I mean, have we had all the good news and what's left is all the rubbish?
No, we didn't do any of that prioritization. We feel very excited about all the holes, and that's actually the truly honest answer. So I don't expect the quality of the drilling of the results to go down. If anything, actually, what people tend to be very, very excited is about the Cassiar South drill holes. That's because where we have the high grade material, everyone loves high grade, and from the first time we drilled the Cassiar South in 2021, we had some really spectacular intercepts of 4.8 meters at 35 grams per ton. As well as the 6.4 meters at 12 grams per ton. So typically that generates more excitement. Obviously, higher risk, higher rewards. But let's see what's in store for this year.
Yeah, and you'll get people like me who kind of look at the back of the news release and go, "Oh, you got a good hit there, but you've made a miss there." And there's as you said, I mean, you talked about it. There's variability intrinsic into those systems, which is you perhaps wouldn't expect in a bulk tonnage. The grade 1.14 for Taurus, northern BC. Okay, you're on the highway, got the power there, but is that high enough grade to make it work? I mean, don't you, if you're going to tackle that grade, don't you need to sweeten it with something else or have multiple millions of ounces? Or I mean, does the grade of it make you sweat at night and wake you up?
No, not at all. I like the grade. It's 1 gram per ton. It's not bad. Will I like it to be higher? Absolutely. But I think it's a good grade. I think obviously, we still have to go through economic studies, but we're in infrastructure. We're literally on a highway. In fact, you can drive from Vancouver all the way to the top of the 1.4 million ounce resource without ever leaving a paved road. And we're not constrained at 1.4 million ounces. This resource is open laterally in all directions and at depth. And as we discussed before, there's a potential to continue to expand mineralization within the pit shell. I believe this has a potential to continue to grow, and I believe will continue to grow. I think the grade is good. Again, if it was better, I wouldn't mind. But we do also have the potential to at Cassiar South to have those high grade vein systems. That could be, for example, a grain control tool, which is very valuable when you're in production, to use that as a sweetener for grade control. Or Cassiar South could be also an interesting opportunity in and of itself, because at Cassiar South we do have the mine permits. We do have a fully owned and permitted mill that's specifically well designed for Cassiar South, and with the power access and all the 25 kilometers of underground workings, etc. We kind of we have kind of the ingredients to cook something quite interesting. But we need to have more of that exploration upside and start building a true inventory of high grade material. Currently, we have no resource on Cassiar South, but obviously in the future will be an idea to start building something there, because we're having some. We had in the past some nice intercepts, and I'm certainly hoping that on the 22 drill program we have some more that we can build upon.
Thank you. And you mentioned the kind of the historic recoveries and the historic processing routes, relatively primitive. Have you done any petrography? Have you done the microscope at any of this stuff? What does it look like? Or have you done any met test work? Are there any nasties? Is there any kind of encapsulated gold? Is there any arsenopyrite? What's the ugly underbelly look like?
Yeah, so actually we've been doing some geological and metallurgical domaining, including petrography. And actually what we are doing right now is we send some samples to do LACO sulfur testing and sulfur analysis as a proxy for gold recoveries, compared with the assays from that same drill holes. Because we've did a bit of a geological domaining to see, and we came out with 3 kind of geological domains. We're going to use these kind of proxies as a test for our models, and if they fit well, what we're going to do in the summer is going to follow up and do water world testing, which is the proper way to determine recoveries, and start seeing if and then continue to work to see what kind of processing is do we have different domains, what are the ideal processes for the different domains, if any. But obviously, again, as I mentioned, the historical recoveries, they give us a lot of confidence into what we have. Obviously, the high grade on Cassiar South is easier. The recoveries there on average were 93% in the 80s and 90s with a gravity flotation mill that we currently have. There was 35,000 ounces of production there from the Torres East area, with those recoveries at around 80%. So that gives us some comfort, but obviously a lot more work is being done. So we're doing that work at the same time. We're looking to explore and expand what we have as well.
And when you talk about those geological domains, what's that separated on? Are you working on geology or alteration or sulfide content or oxides or?
Yeah, so actually, that's kind of above my pay grade. So I'm not a geo, but it's yeah. So I think the best thing would be to get you on a conversation with our VPX. Can give
no problem.
Details,
we can. Yeah, absolutely. We can do that another time.
I don't want to butcher the geology and the metallurgy here.
Let's not butcher the geology, but let's go to the. So what I'm hearing loud and clear is that this is an exploration story, wide open in the district. You've got some good infrastructure. You've got a budget of $15 million. I think from what I can rootle around on the internet that you've only got about $6 million in cash. So you're going to have to do let's call it a $10 million raise at some stage. The markets have been terrible. Your share price is beaten up. What's the plan? Yeah,
so that's right. I mean, the 2022 wasn't kind for, I think, any investor, unless you're shorting the markets. And I think we were no different. The whole sector was being dragged down. Now, in terms of the plan that we have for this year, we still, as I mentioned, we still have 17,000 meters of drilling to release. 50 drill holes that we'll be releasing over the next few weeks. We're feeling, pretty good about, what the work we've done last year. So hopefully that's going to drive the share price to the direction that we want, which is up. So we'll see how the market reacts and what we have in the news over the next few weeks. And yes, as you mentioned, we'll go to the market after that. But ideally, we want to do a raise at a much higher valuation that we're right now. So we're trading. This morning we're at 57 cents. So ideally, I would like to raise at a number that starts with a 1. So let's see if we can get there. I'm confident we will, but we'll have to let the news flow get out and see what the market has to say about our results, and then we'll do a raise that is consistent with the dilution that we'll have and what we and the value that we hope to create with this year's drilling program.
What was the last raise done at?
So we did the last raise. We did a very small raise in August at 70 cents, which was led by insiders. Before that we raised at $1. So the small raise in August last year was I think $2.7 million at 70 cents. And before that we had a raise, bought deal financing that we closed I think in May last year at $1.
And sorry, what size was that, the bought deal?
The bought deal was $8.3 million Canadian.
Tell me about your shareholder register. Who's behind, beyond the insiders? What are you feeling from the investors? Who's with you?
Well, actually, it's funny you asked that. I was just on a marathon of meetings. I had 10 meetings before I met you today. It was like speed dating, and a lot of it was our institutional shareholders. So just to give you a sense of our institutional shareholder base, we have Sprott, we have US Global, we have Ixios, we have Crascat, we have EMC, we have Terra Capital out of Australia, we have Bilingual, we have Commodity Discovery Fund out of the Netherlands. We have a really broad shareholder. I'm just naming a few. We have a very good institutional shareholder base. I've obviously won't name which, but I've met with many of them in these 10 meetings, and most of them actually mentioned that please let me know when you raise because I'll be interested in participating. So I think the sector is also starting to change as well. I think 2022 was a brutal year for everyone in the sector. The sector is extremely undervalued, and I think we've already seen in the last couple of months, gold price moved from 1650 to over 1900s. The majors are moving, the mid-tiers are moving, the juniors are moving. So I'm not counting with gold sentiment to help me do my job, but I certainly won't mind if it does help me. But the news flow that we have, I think, will be more than enough to get us where we want to be. But I think the sentiment is starting to turn, and I honestly think personally that 2023 is going to be the year for precious metals. I think we've been a bit of a bear market for a while, and I think it's time for gold to shine.
I couldn't agree more. And interesting, that's a very impressive list of funds that are shareholders of your company. In some ways, I wouldn't be surprised if some of them call you up and say, do you want to do a capital raise? Because one of the things that we worked on quite a lot last year with Crux Investor was looking at contrarian investments. What do you do with your money when equity values come down? And your market capitalization is what, kind of around $44 million Canadian, 45, something like that. Exactly. From what you've told me, you're fundamentally in a better place than you were a year ago because you've got the drilling done, you've got the core, you've got the asset growing. So yeah, that all sounds good.
Yeah, and I guess I think the market is really turning around, and in fact it's interesting because I just also got a message from my bankers and saying like, hey, like, are you sure you want to raise capital if there's interest, or the plan is still to raise at a higher price? And I'm feeling confident, so I think we can take the risk and wait for a higher share price and less dilution. Because I think we have a very attractive asset, as you mentioned, like 44 million market cap for the asset that we have in the jurisdiction that we have, with the infrastructure that we have, with the potential that we have. I think it's a very attractive valuation, a very good risk reward. it's we're trading a year ago. We're trading at the dollar 48. Now we're trading at 56, 57 cents, and arguably the project has been advanced quite considerably since.
So just before we wrap up, could you just remind me of what the news flow is? I know you've got these 50 holes to come, but what happens after that, and how does the diary look over the next 6 months?
Absolutely. So in terms of catalysts, we have those 17,000 meters, 50 drill holes yet to be released. That will be coming out probably until the end of March. So we'll have, say 9 weeks, 10 weeks of very heavy news flow. It's probably going to be almost every other week, or probably in many instances, every week we'll have a press release. And in the meantime, we're already planning this year's drill campaign, our next drill campaign. So we'll open camp in the beginning of May, and we'll probably start drilling on the 1st of June. So the team will basically have April to get their act together and get ready to basically find more targets and continue to expand and continue the great work that we've done. So that's really where we're looking, and it's the new drill campaign is starting just around the corner, so a lot, it's exciting, especially after the 2022 we had a really good year with 11,000 meters of drilling, with our share pricing moved eventually to $1.48, and last year we drilled 23,000 meters with a lot more news flow. So hopefully we can get to the same spot, maybe higher, who knows.
Good. And I remember a question I wanted to ask earlier, but you've got some other projects, kind of Sheep Creek and things. Is that outside of that play, or is it part of that? Is it one of the regional structures that you'll be targeting, or is that something else?
So Sheep Creek is an asset that we have in southern BC. It's close to the border with the US. It's a very prospective asset. It's actually part of the same belt. It's a inland orogenical belt in BC. The Cassiar asset is in northern BC, and the Sheep Creek asset is in southern BC. That asset has produced until 1951 750,000 ounce at nearly 15 grams per ton, and almost no work has been done there since. Obviously, it's very prospective. It's narrow, high-grade veins, a little bit similar to what we have at Cassiar South. Obviously, very high grades with those nearly 15 gram per ton material. But 100% of our focus is at Cassiar Gold. It's kind of, we would need to have a substantial amount of resources to move the needle at Sheep Creek, but we can expect some value creation for shareholders. I think at the right price or for the right terms, we could consider M&A at Sheep Creek, but it has to be the right partner and for the right amount of capital that can generate the value for our shareholders that we believe Sheep Creek deserves, because we think it's a very exciting asset. It's just that we only have so many resources, and we need to really focus on what moves the needle the most for our shareholders.
Very good. Interested parties apply here. And good luck on Cassiar. Marco, it's been a pleasure speaking to you. Good luck with everything, and look forward to catching up with you again, perhaps when the 50 holes are through and you're able to look back over last year's drilling in its entirety.
Sounds good. Looking forward to that. Thank you for your time, Merlin, and I'll love to be back and then we can compare and contrast what we were expecting versus what reality has come with.